Maya is 25 years old and doesn't trust herself to remember. She sets up an automatic transfer on payday, moving $500 into an investment account before she can spend it on anything else. She earns $80,000 a year and has $30,000 in savings sitting in a bank account, untouched by this decision. Her logic is simple. She wants time on her side before life gets expensive. Sam is also 25. He earns the same $80,000, has the same $30,000 in outside savings, and works at the same kind of company. He looks at the same $500 line in his budget and decides to wait. He believes his salary will climb sharply in his 30s. When it does, he's sure he'll save far more than $500 a month. For now, the money stays in his checking account and quietly disappears into daily life. He plans to start investing in 10 years. He doesn't call it spending, he calls it buying time while he's young. Maya calls the same delay a compounding tax. The difference between those two phrases is the entire story. They don't know each other, but they live in the same city, have the same apartment floor plan, and pay the same rent. That isn't a coincidence built into their personalities. The city around them is the same too. The same train delays, the same rent increases, the same grocery store eggs. Neither of them has children yet. Neither has a mortgage. They start from the exact same spot by every measure that matters. One starts early, the other waits. That single decision is about to spend 40 years compounding. For the next 40 years, the market averages 9% a year, compounded monthly. It isn't a promise, and there are stretches that feel terrible. But over long windows, 9% is the number the calculators use. Both Maya and Sam invest in the same portfolio. They pay the same fees. The only difference is that Maya starts at 25 and Sam starts at 35. Every other input is identical. 1 year in, Maya opens her first annual statement. She has deposited $6,000, and the balance reads just over $6,200. The interest line is small, but it isn't zero. She checks the balance on her phone in the parking lot after work. The screen blinks at her with a number that is not life-changing. Sam spends his first year without opening an investment statement. He mentions the $6,000 once at a barbecue and says he'll have a better salary in 10 years. Then he orders another round. Sam doesn't open a statement because there is no statement. He spends the same $6,000 in 100 small decisions that never reach a spreadsheet. Maya doesn't argue with him. She doesn't even know him. She just watches the automatic transfer clear every month and tries not to think about it. At year 3, Maya opens a quarterly statement. She has deposited $18,000, but the balance reads just under $21,000. The market has added about $2,500 on top of her contributions. It doesn't feel life-changing. It feels like enough to cover a used car or a serious emergency. And that's exactly the point. She closes the statement and goes back to work. At that same moment, Sam has nothing invested. He has spent the $18,000 Maya saved on nicer dinners, weekend trips, and subscriptions he stopped using years ago. He doesn't feel poorer. He feels like he's enjoying his 20s, fully convinced he'll make up the ground at 30. He doesn't see a gap. He sees a delayed start with a bigger salary attached to it. Maya tells a coworker about her balance, and the coworker shrugs. It's a used car, not a down payment. Maya shrugs back. She has seen the math, and the math is in the gray lines of the statement. Sam's phone photos from those 3 years are full of restaurant plates, beach exits, and receipts that no longer have a total. He looks at them as proof of a life well lived. The obvious objection arrives early. $500 a month is $6,000 a year. Against an $80,000 salary, that's less than 8%. It feels like a rounding error. The objection is that a small amount saved early can't possibly beat a larger amount saved later. That assumes the money sits still. At 9%, money doesn't sit still. Maya's early dollars aren't just resting. They're recruiting more dollars every year. Sam isn't losing $6,000 a year by waiting. He's losing the army that $6,000 would have commanded over the next decade. He's fighting a compounding war with no soldiers. And the enemy doesn't negotiate. The cost is paid in years, not in arguments. To believe the later start wins, a person has to believe the early money stays exactly where it landed. It doesn't. Each month, the returns buy their own instant small returns. By the time Sam sends his first 500, Maya's first 500 has been joined by dozens of other 500s, and all of their earnings. The original bill is no longer the point. At 32, Maya's car needs a transmission. The repair bill is $4,800. She doesn't touch the investment account. She pays from her emergency fund, then rebuilds that fund over the next 6 months. The automatic transfer never stops. The market has a rough stretch that year, and her statement dips for a few months. She leaves it alone, because the next transfer is already scheduled. Sam's car needs the same repair at 32. He pays from checking and puts a little more on a credit card. He doesn't have an investment account to protect, so the incident passes without teaching him anything. The real problem is what he tells himself after the repair. He says he'll start next year, after the balance is paid off. The market doesn't send him a memo. It just keeps averaging 9% while he waits. Maya's emergency fund rebuilds on autopilot, because she has already separated her present self from her future one. The repair stings, but it doesn't alter the plan. Sam gets the same repair bill, and it feels like bad luck. He doesn't connect it to the missing emergency fund, because there was no fund. He sees a bill that arrived early, not a payment to his future self. The truth is that both cars broke down at exactly the same mileage. The difference is that one had a plan waiting, and the other had only the hope that nothing would go wrong. By age 35, 10 years have passed. Maya has contributed $60,000 of her own money. Her statement shows a balance of $96,800. She has nearly doubled her contributions through growth alone. The money arrived while she was working late, sleeping in, and sometimes forgetting the account existed. That was the point. Sam turns 35 this month and realizes he has $0 invested for retirement. The lifestyle creep of the last decade consumed the surplus he thought he'd have. The clock now sounds less like a suggestion. He finally sets up the $500 transfer. He swears he'll catch up. He starts the same monthly contribution Maya started 10 years earlier. From this point forward, the math is identical for both. They put $500 a month into the same portfolio at 9%. But Maya's money is already running. Sam's is just lacing up its shoes. He thinks he's behind. He doesn't know how far. And the market doesn't wait for him to catch up. It simply continues compounding whatever has already been committed. Maya at 35 has a different relationship with time. The account is not a goal anymore. It's a piece of furniture in her financial life. She moves around it, but she no longer watches it daily. Sam at 35 reads a chart, sees the missed decade, and mutters a word he doesn't use at work. Then he moves the $500 into the same fund and tries to feel righteous. The same month, Maya gets a small card in the mail from the brokerage. It says her account is now worth more than her annual salary. She uses the card as a bookmark. At 38, a slow year in the market arrives. It isn't a crash, just a stretch where every quarterly statement looks worse than the one before. Maya opens hers, winces, and closes the browser tab. Sam opens his first serious statement during the same stretch. He has invested for 3 years, and the balance is lower than he expected. He thinks about pausing the transfer until the market calms down. He doesn't pause. A coworker who started early says the only money he regrets is the money he moved to cash during a bad year. Sam repeats that sentence to himself for 2 weeks. That's the first real test. The market recovers, and both balances climb. Maya's account recovers faster because it had a larger base. Sam sees the difference in dollar terms for the first time. By 40, Sam finally understands what the calculator meant. His balance is still nowhere near Maya's, but it's begun moving on its own. He wishes the automatic transfer had started at 25. The slow year teaches Maya nothing she hasn't already learned. She has watched 3 previous dips in the account and kept the transfer on. The browser tab opens and closes, but the bank instruction never changes. Sam's pause is not a decision, just a daydream. He reads the transfer history and realizes the money still went out on the first. The dream of pausing lasts exactly as long as his lunch break. After the market recovers, Sam starts checking the account less often. He knows the difference between panic and a calendar. It is the first lesson he learned at 38. Another 10 years pass. They're both 45. Maya receives her statement and looks at the bottom line. Her balance has climbed to $334,000. 2 decades of compounding have turned a monthly habit into a serious sum. It isn't just retirement money anymore. It's options. She could pay off a house, start a business, or leave it alone. Sam looks at his statement at 45. He has invested for 10 years, just like Maya did when she was his age. His balance is $96,800. He is finally caught up to where Maya was a decade ago. He's running on a treadmill. Every step he takes puts him exactly where she used to be, not where she is now. The gap between them is now about $237,000. Sam has contributed $60,000 total. Maya has contributed $120,000. That $60,000 difference in principal has generated a $237,000 difference in wealth. Sam can't believe a 10-year delay cost this much. He looks at the numbers and feels pressure to save more. But the math is cruel. To match Maya's balance at this point, he'd need to invest more than double the $500 a month. He's trying to lift a heavy weight with a lever that's too short. The market rewards time more than it rewards effort. A bigger contribution helps, but it can't buy back the 10 years. Maya puts the statement down and finishes making dinner. The number is real, but it is not doing anything visible in the kitchen. She thinks about the house as a future maybe. Sam sits at the same kitchen counter, but the statement takes a different route. He circles the number, writes a question mark, and then looks at his checking balance. The difference between the two kitchens is not income. It is not luck. It is that one person's money has been at work for twice as long, and the other person's money has only just begun. At 48, Sam gets a promotion. His salary jumps, and he calls a financial advisor. The advisor runs the numbers and tells him he'd need to save much more to close the gap. Sam doesn't increase the transfer. He means to, but the raise arrives alongside a move, a new car loan, and private school tuition. The $500 stays fixed. Maya gets a similar raise at 48. She doesn't increase her contribution either, because she already has decades of compounding working for her. She uses the raise to pay off the house. The two raises are the same size. The difference is that Maya's raise buys flexibility, while Sam's raise buys the feeling that he can make up ground later. Later is the expensive word. The advisor's report sits in Sam's email for 7 months. He opens it once, sees the higher savings number, and marks it unread. The report becomes one more tab he doesn't close. Maya's raise makes the mortgage vanish. She doesn't celebrate by spending more. She celebrates by throwing away the house key on the day the balance clears. Both of them got the same envelope from Human Resources. The number inside was identical. What they did with the additional income depended on what the last 23 years had already built. At 55, Maya opens a statement and sees the gain from a single year now exceeds her annual salary. She shows it to her partner. Sam opens his own statement at 55 and sees real progress. But he also sees the gap, and it hasn't narrowed enough to feel comfortable. He starts reading about catch-up contributions. He doesn't change anything that week. The reading turns into a pile of tabs he never closes. The $500 still transfers on the first. Maya's account has stopped being a monthly worry. It has become a kind of second salary she never worked an extra hour for. She still lives on the first salary and leaves the second alone. Sam's progress is real, but it feels like a train arriving late. He can see the station, and he can see how far away the end still is. The catch-up articles promise a shortcut. The math in those articles is not kind. Most of the suggested contributions are larger than his mortgage payment. He closes the laptop and checks the transfer cleared. At 60, the two statements look like they belong to different planets. Maya's balance has crossed 1.8 million. Sam's is approaching 600,000. The gap is now wider than Sam's entire account. Maya has stopped looking at the balance for motivation. She looks at it the way a person looks at a weather forecast. It's information, not identity. Sam still looks at his balance for motivation, and it mostly produces a low-grade panic. He manages with spreadsheets. He has become very good at forecasting what he should have done. Maya's statement sits unopened for 2 weeks, not from fear but from irrelevance. She knows retirement is no longer a question. The envelope waits on the dining table like a utility bill. Sam's spreadsheet has 7 tabs. The first tab is labeled with his actual balance. The other 6 are forecasts that begin with the savings rate he should have used. The 7 tabs do not change the transfer, but they give him a strange comfort. He is finally taking the problem seriously. The problem is that the problem started early, not that he fixed it late. 5 years later, they both turn 65. It's the moment they've been working toward. Maya stops contributing and opens the final statement. Her account balance reads $2.34 million. Over 40 years, she put in $240,000 of her own money. The market added the rest. She closes the laptop and exhales. Sam retires the same day. He has invested for 30 years, which is still a long time by any normal standard. He contributed $180,000 of his own money. His final balance is $915,000. He's a millionaire in his mind until he sees the decimal point. He has less than half of what Maya has. The difference between their endings is about $1.43 million. That's the price of the 10-year head start. Sam didn't lose his money to bad luck or a scam. He lost it to a calendar. He paid roughly $1.5 million for the privilege of waiting 10 years to save the same amount. The ledger isn't gentle, but the ledger also isn't the whole story. Maya tells her partner the number out loud. It sounds made up, so she says it again. Then she goes for a walk and wonders what to do with the rest of the day. Sam reads the number twice, once with his glasses off. Then he puts the statement in a drawer and starts thinking about required minimum distributions. The two numbers are the same age, but they are not the same size. The difference between them does not announce itself with a sound. It just sits there in the statements, apparently impossible and apparently obvious. Maya's plan has a vulnerability the spreadsheet doesn't show. She had to keep that money invested for 40 years. That's 4 decades of job changes, medical bills, and market crashes. Statistics show that 1 in 3 people cash out retirement accounts when they switch jobs. If Maya had cashed out even once, the compounding would have reset to 0. Sam, conversely, lived a little better for 10 years. He enjoyed the liquidity Maya didn't have. He argues, with some validity, that $1 at 25 buys more experiences than $1 at 65. He traveled more and worried less. His mistake wasn't enjoying his youth. It was assuming a higher salary later would automatically fix the savings gap. Maya's account survived because nothing went badly enough to force a withdrawal. It was not discipline alone. A medical crisis, a divorce, or a lawsuit would have pried the money loose. Sam's liquidity was real. It bought plane tickets and late meals and the freedom to leave a bad job without a plan. The spreadsheet cannot price those moments, but it also cannot deny their cost. The honest comparison is not between a perfect saver and a squanderer. It is between 2 people who both could have failed, and one of them had an extra decade to recover. Under these assumptions, the 10-year delay turns equal contributions into very different endings. Maya's balance is larger because the same 9% had more time to work. That's a fact, not a moral verdict. The result holds while the market returns around 9%. If returns drop to 4%, the gap shrinks, but the ending still tilts toward the earlier start. To reverse the outcome, Sam needed a different input. He can't change the past. He can change the contribution. To finish even with Maya, he would have needed to save about $1,280 a month from age 35. That's roughly 2.5 times Maya's monthly contribution. The late start doesn't require a little more effort. It requires an entirely different level of savings. So the rule isn't about winning and losing. It's about what has to be true in each scenario. Starting at 25 locks in the compounding advantage at standard return rates. Starting at 35 requires expanding contributions to roughly 2.5 times the baseline to match the final balance. A 10-year delay usually demands double or triple the monthly savings. That's the condition that matters. If you're early, the market does more of the work. If you're late, your paycheck has to do more of the work. Neither path is impossible, but they demand different sacrifices. The market doesn't care about intentions. It only cares about the timeline. Every month of waiting is a month of compounding your future self has to buy back with a premium. Start the transfer. The math won't wait. For a late starter, the best available option is a larger contribution, and the second best option is to start today. If you want to see other decisions play out over decades, subscribe. What's the one money decision you regret making the most?